Hello everyone, welcome to the Aardvark Swift podcast, the show where we talk to video game developers about the studios, the industry as a whole, and of course the games that they're working on. Today I'm with my colleague and art recruiter Jasmine Ali, and we're in conversation with Simon Vickland of 10 Chambers, currently working on their debut title GTFO, also famous for the soundtracks to Payday 1 and 2, and of course several other projects. Hello Simon, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Would you mind talking through what your role is with 10 Chambers and what a typical day involves?
Well, my responsibilities are anything related to audio, basically, and the story. So I'm involved in right now we're expanding the company, so later on I'll get help with these things. But right now I'm the sole individual responsible for music, sound effects, dialogue, and story.
Oh, great. How is it being the sole person responsible for that? Is that a difficult challenge or?
Well, not so far with GTFO. It's manageable. I like wearing several hats. That's one of the things that I love about being part of this company and generally, companies of this size.
Obviously, you were a co-founder with 10 Chambers.
Yeah, I came in a little bit late, and the others were kind enough to allow me the title of co-founder. I was actually working at another game studio in Stockholm, and then I was freelancing for about 18 months. So I came in like 18 months after the others, basically, or a year or something like that. I don't recall exactly, but yeah, I've been working here for, it must be four years now.
Wow. So with the team scaling up as well, do you think your division will scale up at the same time? Do you have plans to, take on any juniors?
Yeah, we have plans to expand the sound design team, or the creating a sound design team, I should say, where we're not expanding because there is no team right now. But yeah, we'll in 2022 probably. But I don't think it'll be juniors. Actually, we'll try to find senior people, but people who can take over what I'm doing now. Yeah, we need greater bandwidth in the future.
So in 2022, that's when you're planning on expanding all sort of elements of it. How far into the future is your development plans going?
We do have a 5-year plan.
Okay.
So at least 5 years, I'd say. And to be clear, that's just the audio, the sound team. That is, I mean, we're already growing in pretty much every other area right now, but I don't feel the need now in 2021 to hire sound designers. But we're building. I don't know what the correct word is, like a floating studio, like a room within the room. 2 of those in our office in Stockholm for sound designers to sit in, so that they don't have to bother anyone else with the noise they're making, and no one else outside these rooms can bother them. So they're like rooms within the room, standing on rubber feet, so that the sound doesn't propagate through the floors to the people on the floor below and stuff like that. So we're getting that built this summer, hopefully.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so with GTFO, what was the idea behind it? Like, where did the concept come from? Because it's quite similar to, the basis of it in terms of a co-op shooter, but the actual storyline is much different to, action horror titles that I've seen before. So I wondered if there was a concept or an idea and where it came from, really.
The original kernel, I think, was the desire to make something that was really cooperative, because a lot of games claim to be cooperative, but yeah, you're playing alongside your friends, but you don't really have to communicate and coordinate your movements. You can sort of run off on your own, and one player who's better than the other 3 can carry the team, and that, like, we wanted to make something that was a sort of a love letter to those who really enjoy that sort of a game, but are looking for a real challenge. And we wanted to make it really unforgiving and put people who who consider themselves good at playing cooperative games to the test. So so it's not just for people who might be playing like Left 4 Dead or Payday 2, which are a little bit more arcadey in their approach, who want more of a challenge, but also people, I think, who like Escape from Tarkov or Rainbow Six, which is more strategic, because GTFO has more of those elements as well. It's much more slow paced, more about exploration and stealth most of the time, and then you got these intense bursts of combat where it's very important that you sort of predicted that there would be a combat, and then you've set up the room, sort of placed trip mines and sentry guns and closed doors, to try to create choke points and control the fight, tip everything you possibly can in your favor in order to survive, because it's a sort of a survival horror levels of resources in the game. So you're always running out of ammo and health, and you're really like, your life is hanging by a thin thread at all times, and you're always outnumbered by the monsters. And yeah, so when we decided that we wanted to make a really challenging game, that's when the horror aspect really came in, and like a natural element, I think, because we wanted people to play together. And a horror atmosphere sort of inspires people to stick together. The atmosphere on its own sort of becomes a tutorial, or guides the players to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, basically.
Yeah. In terms of survival horror, like you were saying, sound design is definitely key to getting that atmosphere just right. I was just wondering if you had any specific inspirations or a vision for the sound that, when you were making GTFO.
Well, most of the items and tools that you're using are supposed to be sort of makeshift and more like mining equipment that you've repurposed for surviving down there with these monsters that weren't there when they were digging these mining tunnels. So the sounds are supposed to be like more grounded and mechanical and feel more like industrial equipment rather than these super clean electronic, I don't know what the word would be, but like sci-fi-ish sounds. They're sci-fi, but they're like dirty, equipment that's supposed to be used down in the dirty, in the mud down there in the underground. So it's not supposed to be like clean and pristine, and that goes into the sound design as well as the look of everything.
Yeah. In terms of recording, was that a Foley process, and what kind of stuff did you use to get those kind of gritty and industrial sounds?
Well, I'm recording stuff on my own. Obviously, the best way is to just, as a sound designer, you have to have this vision where it's like, or rather your ear, and you walk around in your everyday life and you hear, wow, that's a cool sound, or that would be a cool sound if I pitched it down, So I'm recording with my trusted Zoom like portable recorder, a lot of stuff, but then it's also libraries where we purchase sounds, which is one of the reasons why a single individual like myself can handle the workload, really, because I wouldn't be able to record to do field recordings to get everything if I'm also supposed to make the music and also supposed to cast the voice actors, direct the voice actors, edit all the dialogue, put all that in the game. So yeah, I don't know if that's considered a shortcut, but I think the brilliant people who create these audio libraries, they need money as well, and we're there to support them. So we got a couple of those as well, with like great mechanical sounds and sci-fi hydraulics and I don't know whatnot.
I mean, in terms of GTFO, what do you think makes that stand out from other, co-op titles out there?
Well, GTFO is much more unforgiving and much more hardcore, I'd say. It just we follow that vision that I mentioned, where it's supposed to be a game that you need to be on point. You can't play the game absent-mindedly. You have to be, communicating, coordinating your movements at all times, and otherwise you'll die and you have to start over. And that's one of the, part of the tension that builds up is, of course, if we die now after playing the game for 45 minutes, we have to replay those 45 minutes. It might not take 45 minutes to play that same segment again, but you have to start over. And to some people that might be like rage quitting material, but we found out that there is a healthy community, or there is an audience for this sort of a game. A lot of people actually contacted us on social media, and still do, but around the release in early access of GTFO, they were like, I have been looking for a game like this for decades, or might not be decades, but a decade, for years, and there's nothing on the market that really scratches that same itch. And we were unsure when we were making the game, because we were sort of like, this is crazy. Is there people who want to play something like this? But it turns out there is, there's a great enough group of masochists out there to finance a project like this, or to at least for us to make our money back,
I think a lot of gamers like to replay where they think that they've gone wrong previously. I mean, I know just for myself, if I could do a run through of a game and I think that I could improve some stat somewhere, that I'd redo it again and again. So yeah, I definitely get that. I noticed on the rundown stream that the developers mentioned that you go through it and then you think of what changes could be made. So from that 9-hour stream that you did you pick up anything that you would change in terms of the audio stuff?
Well, I maintain this list of little things on Monday, which is the sort of task tracking software or service that we use. But yeah, I maintain a list of things, and whenever it might even be when I'm playing with journalists, and they might be recording the audio or even the video as we're playing, but I have to tab out of the game and write down into Notepad, oh, this thing sounds weird, and so that I don't forget, because the game experience itself is so captivating. You're sort of caught up in it that by the time you even if you're playing a map that you played several times, you sort of get invested so much that when you get to the results screen, whether you completed the expedition or you died, it's all like flushed out, that mental, like you've been concentrating so hard, and it's difficult to remember all the things that you try to make mental notes of in terms of development, like details that you need to fix. So I need to write it down immediately when I find out about it. I can't recall if there was anything in particular during the live streams that we did on Thursday last week, but probably, yeah. There's always stuff that bothers me. It's just a matter of prioritizing the time. Most often sound needs to be triggered with logic, and then a programmer needs to get involved. I can't program, and the programmer's times. The amount of time that the programmers have is limited, I guess would be the best way to word it.
Yeah, so moving a little bit away from sound design and more so towards the composer element of the many roles that you've done. Obviously, like you said, you do composing for your own personal projects and stuff like that. How do you find the process differs between working on music for your own personal reasons and doing it for a video game or for a soundtrack? How does that kind of come to life?
Well, it's I'm trying to when I'm making music for a game, obviously I have to abide by the parameters or the limitations of the genre. You can't make electronic music for a pirate game. I've never made a pirate game, but that's just an example, where it has to sort of match the era or the setting or the the style, I guess, of the game. And other than that, I always try to sort of make it easier. Usually I try to make it easier on myself, like trying to lean towards my strengths. It's rooted in whatever genre the game is about, but it's leaning towards more or less heavily leaning towards what I feel that I have a good grasp on in terms of music production, and that was the case very much with Payday, because we drew a lot of inspiration from like movies, and the music could have been more cinematic, because it's like you're playing a movie scene. It's like you're in heat, and it could have been more like symphonic or grand. But I'm really not that good at making that sort of music. It's very sophisticated, and you need to have a good grasp on like orchestration and stuff that you really need, like, not really, but it's good if you have like education within those fields. And I don't have any education. I'm self-taught in all of this, I took some piano lessons when I was younger, but that's about it. I can't read sheet music. So I just decided, let's make the music electronic, because that's an area where I feel I have a good, grip on how it's supposed to sound. And then I just decided that the music is going to be unapologetically sort of cool. Like it's emphasizing how cool you are living this fantasy, because it's a power fantasy. Payday is a power fantasy. Like, you get to rob a bank, and you get to do the things that you see people do in the movies. So the music is supposed to like enforce or reinforce that sort of a feeling of being like, oh, you're doing something that is not allowed, and it's kind of cool to do it. So the music is very much like supposed to make your head nod. You're supposed to be nodding your head to the music, to the beat. Whereas DTFO is the opposite. It's not a power fantasy. You're supposed to be, you're dying. You're always, scrambling for ammunition and health packs, and you're just barely getting by, and you're always outnumbered, and it's supposed to be, it's a horror experience, and the music needs to be, you should not be able to nod your head to it. It needs to be, atonal rather than melodic. That shouldn't have riffs. It shouldn't have repeating lines or repeating rhythms that gets you, into a groove. It needs to be arrhythmic and atonal and really like jarring and like horror music, basically, like creepy and unsettling rather than soothing in any way or cool in any way. And that's been a huge challenge for me. Because that's where I feel the music needs to be rooted in that, but leaning towards maybe something electronic. So the music has some electronic elements like synthesizer, like pulses and stuff like that to create that sort of the feeling of stress. But it's been very hard, and I gotta admit, I'm happy we're still in early access, because I feel I can still change the music. I'm not happy with how it sounds like now, right now, at least not the action music that comes in when you're fighting the monsters and when you're getting attacked. I think that can be done way better. Both the implementation of the music as well as the sounds. So that's a work in progress. I hope to get it fixed by the time the game leaves early access. But it's been a huge challenge to leave that behind, that sort of mentality where it's, when I make electronic music, it's like layering stuff, like here's the kick drum, and then there's this riff, and you got the bass line and these synthesizers, and it's all like loops, and then you just build up the song by taking away and adding loops back in and sort of arranging the song that way. Whereas this horror music is just I have to abandon all those comfortable sort of rules and methods that I've known, I enjoy the challenge, but it's really challenging. That's I don't even remember what the question was, but that was me admitting, I guess, that the music is could be better, and I'm gonna put in the work to make it work better.
Yeah. In terms of working environments then, in how you work, obviously you've worked freelance before and you've worked for studios. You've obviously co-founded this one, and there's been sort of different levels of creative freedom that you've had when it comes to creating soundtracks and composing and stuff. Does that affect your way of working, your methods when it comes to composition?
I don't know. I haven't thought about that really, but obviously when you're freelancer, you are to an even greater extent than I am. Ulf is the game director, and he has this vision. Like he knows not just whether the game is supposed to be hard or with what elements we add to the game to make it hard, but also he knows what atmosphere and tone there should be. And I've missed the mark on the dialogue to some extent in GTFO, so he had to correct me, like, and say, like, the banter between the player characters can't sound like this because it sounds too casual. They're in this life and death situation. We need to really stay the course in terms of the tone, and that goes obviously for the music as well. So I need to follow sort of for this the vision that he has for the game. But I'd say that it's even more true when you're working as a freelancer. You really need to see yourself as a tool for your client to realize what they have in their mind, And if they say we don't like this, we change it. It's you just do it, You just accept that you've failed to understand what they wanted, and then you redo it, the way that they want it. So you have to sort of check your ego at the door to an even greater extent. I have to do that to some extent, even though I'm the lead here at 10 Chambers, for the audio department. But I can sort of make my case to a greater extent and discuss and sort of argue why I think we should go a certain direction with the elements that I'm responsible for.
Yeah. As a lead at 10 Chambers, do you have any part in the hiring process for your department? You were saying earlier that's something you're expanding into. Do you have a say in that kind of element?
Well, I was brought in when we were hiring. We were having interviews at the office, 2 interviews at the office and 1 over Teams for a content creator, like social media content creator. And that was mainly because I have a good grasp on the tone of GTFO, which was the title that we needed help with, That was just a few weeks ago, or a month ago or something like that. So that's pretty recent, and that individual started working just 10 days ago or something. I don't. But yeah, I was asked to be present during the interview, just so that I can ask some questions and regarding like the tone of like this, what the story is about the game, and what we feel are the strengths of the design and so on, and how we limit ourselves when we communicate the game, because we can't. Even as we do in the game, we also need to know what tone we have when communicating the game outside the game, in marketing and in social media. And we can be sort of loose and have like, jokes about the game and use like memes and GIFs, funny GIFs and stuff like that on Twitter maybe, but that's not something that we put in like emails going out to people. So there are different like different communication channels have different tones, I guess. So I was involved in that. Obviously, I'll be involved when we hire sound designers or anyone related to audio. But so far, that's been the thing. I don't know if I explained it well enough, but that's sort of what they told me. Ulf would probably had been even better to have in that room, but Ulf's time is limited, so we'd have to clone him in order to have him in interviews.
Yeah. So when you are involved in that hiring process, what kind of things do you look for in a candidate in terms of, how does the process go, and what do you look for in that candidate?
Well, at 10 Chambers, we have the first stage interview online. That we sift through the applications, and we find the ones that we think are matches to what we're looking for, and we have the first stage interview online, just over, might be over Teams or Skype or Discord, whatever. And the associated the managers that are tied to the position that we're looking to recruit for are present, and we've designed a test to gauge the applicant's skill level. But I think that's something usually that they can do that we give to them, and that they can get back a week later or a few days later, and so it's not supposed to be carried out during the actual interview. And then the second stage interview is actually the final stage. Then we've just chosen a handful of applicants, and that's where I was present during the social media content creator interview. We had chosen 3. So we had two come into the office and one on Skype or on Teams. So that's managers again that are tied to the position that is being recruited for, but also human resources and any other internal stakeholder within the company is present. I guess that was me in that case. And then I don't know if this is the rule, but during those interviews that I was part of, we had a test that actually took place during the interview. We left the room and gave them half an hour to make something, sort of a presentation, so that they had half an hour to sort of brainstorm and come up with something, and then present it in any way they wanted, on their laptop or on a whiteboard in the room, just to, I guess, I haven't asked, but I guess it was just to see how their ability to deliver under stress, and like sort of curveball, handling a curveball like that. But yeah, so we trying to not to do like 4, 5, 6 interviews, but keep it just to two stages. And we're looking for candidates who are skilled, obviously, mainly senior, people who already have experience within the field, self-motivated and passionate about games and their work, and they should also be collaborative and have strong communication skills, because we want to be a company where the different departments are really communicating with one another, and sharing ideas, and good ideas can come from anywhere. It's the idea that is important, rather than who hatches the idea. So just keep communicating, within the team and between the teams. I guess it goes well with the idea of our company making cooperative games.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you place more of an importance on the team dynamics and communication, as opposed to who has what idea and stuff like that. Would you mind expanding on that a little in terms of how you describe the company culture at 10 Chambers Collective?
Well, we started off 8 people, so we're really small, super flat. No hierarchies really. Like obviously Ulf has the vision, but there's no room in such a small company to have any, like a manager or superiors and like junior team or anything like structure like that. In fact, you have too few people to cover for everyone to have a one role, and that's what I mentioned early on, where I like the idea of having, not just the idea, but I like having several hats, because when it's all creative, but you can still like sort of get, I guess, grow tired of one task, and then you can shift, so that I when I get ear fatigued from doing, music or sound design, I can shift to communicating with our freelance writers for the story, so I can try different things, and then so my work day doesn't have to be like all the same thing over and over and over forever, which is lovely. Yeah, so we've always been small team. Everyone talks to everyone, and best idea wins, and a lot of like freedom under responsibility, and just stay the course in terms of the vision of the game. Ulf has said something which is very true. Like, you can't make a product and say, well, this is supposed to be for everyone, because then it gets watered down to something that it doesn't have an identity at all. And it's better to say, well, this is going to sell 1 million copies, or this is going to sell 500,000 copies, and then it's just a bonus if it sells more. But we know the demographic, so that was that's very much the case with GTA 4, where it's like, well, we're not going to be discouraged if we're looking at other games and like, oh, that's such a cool feature that they have that is like such a broad market concept, and we should not put that in our game because we're not making a broad market game. It's going to be certain things that we might want to put in our game would clash with what the game really is, and it would be sort of a weird combination that probably wouldn't work well. It's sort of like being really true to the core idea, and everyone's sort of working towards that. But we want to work on stuff that we love. We want to have fun doing games that people have fun playing. And we want to collaborate with people and work with people that we're proud to work with, the sort of almost like bucket list. Like, at this point in our careers, we just want to make something, collaborate with people who we admire, and it's a rare opportunity here that we got, with being in the position where we're this fully funded scale up,
I think that culture within a studio really speaks to a lot of senior people, and I know that you guys are really trying to build a team around seniors for now, and I find it so easy to talk about 10 Chambers, and a lot of people are really interested. Is there anything more that you could tell us about, what you see the future of GTFO looking like, and how that's going to carry on, further down the line?
Well, we've chosen this sort of weird way for the game to live on, where it's games as a service in a way, but it's not a subscription. You pay for the game once, and then it lives on like a string of time limited events almost, or seasons with other games, where it's like, or other games call it seasons, where things are time limited, and once the season is over, things change, content gets thrown out, and new stuff is introduced. And GTFO is like that. So like 3 times a year or something like that, we actually just scrap all the maps that are in the game currently, and then we put new stuff in. And it's very hard to tell a story in a game like that, because people who buy the game now will not be able to play maps or expeditions that were available in the game previously. So they pretty much have to read up on this, what's been introduced in the story so far in like wikis online and things like that. So we're really playing game development on legendary mode here, because it's we're putting pressure on ourselves in a lot of ways. We can't make the game gradually harder for the people who played from the beginning, because if you buy the game now, you still have to have these maps or these expeditions, which are like, for the learning curve to be acceptable, you need to have a few maps that are easier. And then we introduce these concepts to try to cater to both people who just found out about the game, not casual players, but people who are looking for the challenge but haven't learned the details or how the game really behaves yet, but also for the players who might have been playing the game for a year. yeah, the game is going to keep living like that even after it graduates from early access, and that's how we're what we're planning to do. No paid like subscription service. No, I've even forgotten the words. These things that we never talk about them because they're never going into the game. But loot boxes, and these sort of gambling-like features. We might add some sort of a microtransaction where you pay to get something that is purely cosmetic, but never any pay to win, sort of where you have an edge in terms of completing the game because you've purchased something. That's not what we want to do, But yeah, even going forward after early access, which I can't say now exactly when it is, but I'd say we're more than halfway through the early access phase, But even as we graduate from early access sometime in the future, we'll keep putting stuff in the game like this. New expeditions, new weapons and tools, and new scenarios and objectives, expeditions, monster types, environmental hazards, all these challenges. And it's fun for the level designers to get all these different elements and tools that they can put in a mix, where it's we have these monsters that are, I don't know, you need to use the bio tracker to see them because they're in the dark, or they're like shadows. But what happens if there's this EMP wave that washes over the map every 60 seconds that shuts down all your electronic equipment, including the bio tracker that you need to see those monsters? Well, then maybe there's a tool that you can use which creates this bubble that you need to stay inside in order for the EMP to not affect your equipment, sort of a shield, like a shield against EMP waves. But then that limits your movement because you need to be close to this piece of equipment that blocks the EMP. Yeah, stuff like that just adds, levels of complexity to the game and to how people play the game. So the more of these things, these elements we add, monsters of different types that behave different, because of different conditions, within the map. Darkness and fog and we've added a few things, but we have ideas for so many more, and so that's how the game's going to keep living. That's just adding more complexity to it, I guess, and more exciting challenges.
Yeah, what do you see on the distant horizon for not necessarily just GTFO, but the studio as a whole? Do you see GTFO being something for the long term, or is there going to be other projects that are going to come out of 10 Chambers?
Well, it's gonna keep being about delivering the next gen cooperative first person shooters, doing work that we're proud of and collaborating with great people, crossing off some bucket list stuff, in terms of collaborating with people within the industry. But we do have over 700 square meters in central Stockholm, and it's not all for GTFO. So I'm not going to say anything more than that, but there might be something cooking in the very early stages.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about while you're here? Is there anything you want to tell our listeners?
Check all the positions that we have that we're hiring for, because we're really scaling up in this phase right now. Come work with us in Stockholm. It's a cool company. It's a cool place to be.
Yeah, well, I think that does it. Thank you very much, Simon, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
So for anyone listening, if you are interested in working at 10 Chambers in Stockholm, please do visit our website, Aardvark Swift, where you can find all the roles that they are currently hiring for. But until then, I have been your host, Michael Rodber. With me today, like I said, is Jasmine Ali. And it's been a pleasure for you to spend the time with us today. Thank you.
Bye for now.